Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the agegap subreddit. The post is titled, "My wife just found out she's pregnant. I had a vasectomy 10 years ago. I had a vasectomy during my first marriage. My ex and I had 3 kids, we were done, and it just made sense. I got married last year after 3 years of dating. My wife has never given me any indication to believe she is cheating. In fact, she is an extremely loyal and attentive spouse. To top it all off, I work from home. I literally don't know when she would have the time to have an affair unless she was doing it at work. We always have our locations on our iPhones, and I have noticed no secretive or suspicious behavior. When we first found out about the pregnancy, she was incredibly shocked but ultimately very happy. She said, in between tears, that she guessed the vasectomy had failed. I've googled it. We're looking at about a 1% probability that this happened. So basically, I have 2 choices. Ask my wife for a paternity test and either have my suspicions confirmed or shatter her trust in me. Or I say nothing and live with this gnawing suspicion until our child is born and I can quietly perform a paternity test. I am so torn up about this. My wife is already planning the nursery and I'm sitting here wondering if I should be hating her or myself." User Mr. Satch's friend said, "Call your doctor. They should be able to do a sperm count and tell you if you're even remotely fertile. Wait for those results before confronting her." To this, OP said, "Yeah, this is absolutely the thing to do. I've been so stressed out and shocked that I haven't been thinking clearly." A deleted user said, "Vasectomies can reverse themselves. I've had 2 friends have happy surprises after getting snipped. I have one too, and I know there's always a chance of pregnancy. It's not 0. Instead of sitting there worrying about paternity, your initial knee-jerk reaction should be that life found a way if you and your wife have a solid foundation. I don't know why this was even considered. I would never assume that my partner was cheating. Get an appointment with a urologist and have your sperm count checked. You may find a little surprise." Update. Hello all, a few of you might remember my last post. My wife found out she was pregnant unexpectedly, and I, having had a vasectomy 10 years ago, couldn't shake the suspicion of cheating. I took everyone's advice and got the vasectomy checked. Lo and behold, my doctor tells me my sperm count is very low, but there are still sperm present. This explains why we've been having unprotected sex for years without any issues, but also why my wife is now pregnant. I was equal parts relieved and ashamed of myself. My wife is a wonderful person, and she shows me every single day how much I mean to her, and I suspected her of cheating before I even considered an issue with the vasectomy. I have thought about coming clean to my wife and telling her what I did, but on the other hand, she is so happy and excited. She's showing quite a bit now, and everywhere we go, people tell her she is glowing. Our relationship is the best it's ever been, and I don't think it's right to burst her bubble to alleviate my own guilt. All I can do is be the best husband I can be to her through this pregnancy and get ready to be a dad at 46. Thanks to everyone for their suggestions. I just wish I had thought of it myself before jumping to horrible conclusions. I thought I should post an update." This next story was made in the relationship subreddit by a user named WhatDo232. The post is titled, "My best friend's fiance is extremely inappropriate towards me." Throwaway because one of the people involved knows my personal account. I am at a loss for how to handle this situation in an appropriate manner. Any kind of advice would be greatly appreciated at this point. To make this easier, let's call my friend Kate and her fiance, John. I met Kate during my sophomore year of high school through mutual acquaintances. We became very close, so naturally, I was devastated when she moved several states away after graduating. Despite the distance, we kept in contact and remained as good friends as ever. About 2 years ago, my family happened to take a vacation very close to her new home. So we excitedly planned to meet. It felt amazing to see her again. We both dashed out of our cars and hugged and squealed like stereotypical best friends. We hung out all evening and caught up with one another in person. I also had the chance to finally meet her fiancé of 1 year. I had heard only great things about this guy and he seemed very pleasant. Shortly after returning home, I received a text message from an unknown number, John. He thanked me for stopping by to see Kate, saying that it really lifted her spirits and he hadn't seen her so happy in a long time. Understanding the personal issues Kate had been struggling with lately, I told him I was glad to have helped. I assumed Kate had given him my number and didn't think much else about it. John would text me here and there about little insignificant things. He'd mention a movie he and Kate were about to see and ask for my opinion, or suggest a fun new video game they had bought. I would answer his questions or respond to suggestions, but never carry on a conversation beyond the original topic. John would attempt to keep me talking, but I always dropped off due in part to not being very big on texting. More than a year after seeing Kate, I received a very late night text from John saying, "I miss you." Assuming he had sent this to me by mistake, I ignored it. Fast forward to a month or so ago, I took a weekend trip to visit Kate. We had been planning this get together for a while, and I was super excited to spend some much needed girl time with her. I had been anticipating a chill weekend with my best friend, but nothing could have prepared me for the Twilight Zone situation I was about to walk into. Kate and John picked me up from the airport, and I was made to feel uncomfortable almost immediately. John extended his arms for a hug upon my arrival, which I thought nothing of and accepted. He held me a bit too tightly and for a bit too long, then commented on how hot I looked. Not nice or even pretty, but hot. I sort of just laughed awkwardly and looked towards Kate, who seemed not to be paying attention at the moment. I pushed this aside, chalking it up to a social fluke on his part, and enjoyed the rest of my day with them. The daylight hours went smoothly, save for John suggesting several times that we all get drunk that evening. Not being a drinker, I declined only to have him get a little pushy about it. I politely reaffirmed my opinion, and he eventually dropped it. After returning to their home, the three of us hung out in the family room and watched a bit of television. We all began talking and somehow came to the topic of a pregnancy scare Kate had told me about a few months prior. John proceeded to tell me how stupid Kate was for worrying over a possible pregnancy. He said that he had told her several times that it was hardly possible and to stop being such a stupid spaz over it. He went on to say that it was her own fault for forgetting her birth control and that it was bullshit for her to then expect him to use a condom. I was entirely thrown off by the way he raised his voice and talked so rudely about my friend. I defended her, saying that it was entirely legitimate to worry about these things and that if she preferred he wear a condom to be safe, he should respect her wishes. He only laughed at me, and Kate stayed totally silent during the entire interaction. John then asked if I wanted to sleep in bed with him and Kate rather than in the guest room, which I found totally strange. I declined the offer and went to bed. The following morning, Kate and I had made plans to go shopping. She mentioned that John wouldn't be with us because he had to work, which I was very grateful for. Before leaving the house, however, John stopped me and said, "You're a heavy sleeper." Confused, I gave him a weird look and asked what he meant. He went on to say, "You're a heavy sleeper. You don't even wake up when people touch you." Normally, I would have interpreted this as someone possibly trying to rouse me earlier by tapping my shoulder or something along those lines. But the way John was smirking at me and the inflection he put on the word touch made me think otherwise. I asked John what the hell he was talking about, and he only laughed, saying it was nothing. Now, I happen to take some relatively strong sleeping pills, of which Kate is aware. These knock me out pretty hard, but I believe I would have woken up if someone entered the room or touched me inappropriately. So I highly doubt anything actually happened, but the possibility of him groping me in my sleep makes me sick. In fact, the fact that he would say that to me just to cause anxiety makes me sick. I tried to enjoy my outing with Kate, which unfortunately didn't offer much solace. While stopped at a red light, Kate and I sat quietly as a group of pedestrians crossed the street. Kate made a comment about how beautiful one particular girl in the crowd happened to be. I agreed that she was a very pretty woman, only for Kate to suddenly spout out, "I'm not attracted to men." She had said this as if the words had been dying to leave her lips for years. I was pretty dumbfounded and caught off guard by the sudden confession, as I had never entertained the idea of Kate being a lesbian. She had mentioned once a short fling she shared with a girl in middle school, but claimed it had been nothing more than a cry for attention. We joked about this here and there, but I never thought she could have been lying. I didn't answer due to lacking a decent response, so she followed up by bluntly telling me that she is a lesbian and that she doesn't love John. I asked Kate why on earth she would marry him then, and she only said, "Because I think it's what I should do." I tried to talk to her more about this, but she then told me she would prefer the subject be dropped. At this point, I was counting down the hours to my flight home the next morning, and after hearing that John would be joining us for dinner, I was even more eager to get away. After meeting up with him, the three of us began walking into the restaurant, only for me to catch John's hand veering dangerously close to my butt. I shifted away and he moved very quickly in an attempt to grab it. Luckily, I managed to jump to the side, leaving him with only his fingertips brushing my skirt. I told him to watch his fucking hands and he just laughed again and made some kind of comment about my appearance and how he couldn't help it. Dinner couldn't have gone by slower. I sat there hardly saying a word, wondering if I should just try to get a hotel room for the evening. However, my stupid self decided that I could make it one more night and save the cash. I told Kate that I was very tired the moment we got back to her place, but she insisted that I watch our favorite movie together before I had to go home. Unable to say no, the two of us headed up to her room. About an hour into the movie, John came in and asked to watch with us. Kate told him, of course, and hardly 10 minutes passed before he started attempting to convince Kate and me to kiss. I said no repeatedly and just kept looking at the screen. Kate wasn't saying a damn word about it, and John actually started pleading with us to just kiss really quickly, so I told him to shut up and that he was ruining the movie. A couple more minutes of silence passed until John outright asked if I'd like to sleep with him. The way he went about asking made it seem as if he had deluded himself into thinking he was irresistible to me. I told him no and pointed out that Kate was sitting right next to me. I looked at her expecting some kind of response, but it was obvious that she had totally spaced out at this point. John informed me that Kate was fine with sharing him. He continued to badger me and insisted that I show him some appreciation for allowing me to stay in his home. I looked at Kate and asked her, "How the f are you okay with this?" She looked as if she was unable to hear me, staring straight ahead with dull eyes. I got up to leave only for John to attempt to block the door. Mind you, I'm a 5-foot-tall, 100-pound girl being physically blocked by a very large man. I told John firmly to move, only for him to once again say that I owed him. I took my chances and shouldered my way past him. Luckily, he didn't do much but attempt to grab me as I exited the room. I gathered my things quickly and got a hotel room. Kate never even acknowledged what happened. I think she may be suffering from either John's abuse or some kind of mental disorder, which makes me feel bad for being angry with her. But I'm very angry that she sat by and did nothing while her fiancé was so aggressive with me. Kate is aware that I was sexually assaulted in the recent past, and therefore am sensitive to such pushy advances. I talk to Kate very sparsely now, and she doesn't seem to understand why. By coincidence, I happen to have accepted a role in an internship program close to the city where she lives. Within a month, I will be living in very close proximity to both her and John, and I need to figure out what to do. I want to help my friend. I'm afraid that she is experiencing abuse, living a lie by pretending to be heterosexual, and may possibly be suffering from some kind of mental illness. I have never been in a situation like this, and I'm at a complete loss. I don't want to see Kate after I move because that would mean I'll see John. Any advice on how I can help her and try to defuse this situation would be massively helpful. Edit, whoa, I just woke up and I had no expectations of this post blowing up so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of the advice and support. Seriously, you guys have no idea how much it means to me. I've decided to talk to Kate. I'm nervous as hell because I have no clue how she'll react, but I need to reach out to her. She has been there for me during trying times in my life, and I want to be there for her. I know for a fact that John works tonight, and Kate will sometimes accompany him and just sort of sit there and be idle all evening, but I don't know if she's going tonight. I asked if she'd like to Skype this evening, and she responded with, "Why do you want to talk to me all of a sudden?" I told her I'd just like to catch up and apologize for being so busy lately. I haven't received an answer just yet, but I'll try my best to update tonight if we get the chance to talk. Once again, thank you everyone. I'll try to respond to as many comments as possible. I'm not receiving any good advice from those close to me, so this is insanely beneficial. Edit 2, Skyping with Kate tonight. She agreed a lot more excitedly than I had anticipated, judging by her previous texts. We chatted for just a little bit afterward, and oddly, she brought up the fact that she had recently watched Rush and commented on how hot Chris Hemsworth is. I was a bit thrown off, for obvious reasons, given that she had not only confessed to being a lesbian, but also told me verbatim that she's not attracted to men. Maybe I'm reading too far into it, so I just agreed that yes, Chris Hemsworth is indeed gifted and told her I couldn't wait to talk tonight. I'm still very nervous. A deleted user said, the way he berated and insulted her over the pregnancy scare was abusive. The fact that he was so comfortable making blatant grabs at you in front of her makes me think she's been conditioned and scared into not reacting. I am very worried for her. I think when you see her in person next, you should speak to her alone and be very honest about how extremely messed up that visit was. Tell her you are very worried about her. Ask if there is any way you can help. Do you know her family? Would it be worth speaking to them about it? User RWM said, it sounds very abusive. He wasn't even trying to hide it from you. You may want to consider offering Kate a place on your couch when you move in a month, or even suggesting she move in with you alone. This may seem extreme, but if you're okay with it, you could be a tremendous help for her. I don't think she was being an inconsiderate friend. From the way you described it, she was in La La Land. She was trying to escape her reality. Her confession of homosexuality may be an attempt to find a way out of the abusive relationship. Her lack of reaction to her fiancé's attempts at a threesome seems to stem from fear rather than a pre-planned discussion about them sharing you. Everything reeks of abuse in your story, and I hope you can help her. I would strongly advise against dropping contact with her unless it puts serious strain on you to keep up with her. If anything, I would suggest more contact, alone and in person, so your friend has someone to help her get out of this scary situation. As always, I will suggest therapy if you can afford it. Not necessarily for this, but for your own issues. I hope you and maybe your friend can get away from this creep. Update. So I know my original post is super old, but I received an invitation to Kate and John's wedding today. It reminded me of this whole thing, and more importantly, the fact that I never really thanked everyone for all your supportive comments and advice. Thank you very, very much. Plenty of people had been asking for an update, but honestly, I became so busy prepping to move that Reddit was not on my list of priorities. So on to the update. I went through with the Skype chat as planned. Luckily, I had successfully caught Kate alone. We made small talk for hardly a minute because my nerves were buzzing and I wanted to get this over with. I jumped right to it and explained to her why I'd been distancing myself, that John's behavior was seriously concerning. I listed for her the exact events that had made me feel uncomfortable for both her safety and mine. She listened in dead silence, as I'm certain this had not been her expectation for our chat. After I'd finished, I asked why she would want to spend her life with this man, especially since she'd confided in me about her sexual orientation. Kate broke down pretty quickly, and to sum it up, she's been in love with me since high school. I can't put into proper words how I feel about this part. Yes, as some of you had suggested, Kate and John had been trying to set up a threesome the entire weekend I was there. I asked her whose idea it had been, and she said it was hers, but that John was incredibly excited about the suggestion. She admitted to having planned the entire thing out with John before even inviting me to visit. She said they planned to see if the intimacy would come naturally and then try to initiate it if that were not the case. I asked her why she was okay with John acting so coercively, and she said he'd promised to make it happen no matter what after I hadn't caught the hint the past 2 nights. She said she felt desperate to be with me intimately and would do anything for that to happen. I asked her even if it meant having to force me, and she said maybe so, but that I would enjoy it eventually, that I would probably have just given in and she could join if John had followed through. Not gonna lie, this made me feel sick, but I set those feelings aside and told her very gently that I don't reciprocate her romantic feelings but still care for her as a friend. I told her that I feared for her safety and happiness and only wanted to help. Well, that completely flipped a switch. Honestly, I've never seen Kate angry. She's a passive person to a fault, but holy shit, did she lose it on me. Kate made a total 180 and began making accusations that didn't make sense. That I was trying to steal John away from her and that I couldn't have him. That his sexual aggression towards me was directly my fault due to how I dress and present myself. That all her insecurities are my fault because she has to put up with John talking about how I look and asking why she can't act more like me. Anyhow, she ended her tirade by telling me to kill myself, so honestly, I hung up after that. I feel as though Kate is dealing with issues that are far beyond my ability to assist with, and I couldn't continue speaking to her. My internship is over now, so I'm home and away from both of them. During my internship, they both attempted to contact me multiple times, but I always deleted the messages. Kate simply ignored what had transpired between us and asked why I wouldn't speak to her. Then John made a few jokes about kidnapping me. I only saw both of them once during my entire internship. I had the chance to attend a large pop culture convention, and I was seriously so stoked about it despite having no friends to go with. Luckily, I found a couple of girls on Facebook through my internship group page who were also looking for people to go with. I knew for a fact that Kate and John would be going as they attend every year. Plus, the costume I chose to wear was nearly unmissable, so I was certain they would notice me. But honestly, I was not about to let them spoil the event for me and went anyway. I gave the girls a rundown of the situation and they all assured me they had my back. Lo and behold, as I'm standing in an autograph line with my friend, John hugs me from behind. I basically went into spaz mode and flailed until he let go. The dick acted confused while Kate was right beside him, being quiet. I'd like to say that I told him off like a champ, but I didn't. I was scared, honestly, so I just ran. I was wearing massive heels, so I had to do that weird crouch move where you're not really running, but more so fast walking like a werewolf. A couple of the girls followed me to make sure I was okay. I never saw them again. I know the general consensus was to not cut Kate out of my life, but I honestly do not believe either of them is safe to be around. I feel that Kate is dealing with something beyond what I can assist with, and my personal safety needs to come first. Obviously, I'm not going to the wedding. Thank you for all the helpful advice and support I received on my previous post. This last post was made in the homeless subreddit by a user named Variety. Okay, the post is titled, 16 years ago today, my son died homeless in an alley. As the title says, I am very sad. I kept asking him to come home. His brother asked him to come home. His ex-wife asked him to come home. His daughter missed him terribly and absolutely wanted him to come home. But his ex-girlfriend, the mother of his youngest child, had completely cussed him out and told him to never show his face around again, so he refused to come home. I did not know this part of the story until 2018 when I was housing her because she was homeless with my granddaughter. She told me then. During the year or so before his death, Kamala Harris's district attorney's office put him on probation for selling a small amount of cannabis to an undercover cop and warned him that if he left the state, they would extradite and imprison him. As a result, he refused to come home at that time. I will say I detest Harris, and while I've been a lifelong Democrat, I am very upset that Biden chose her. I will never respect her. It took us over 2 months to find out he was dead. A friend of his discovered it through the Social Security death database registry and called his ex-wife to let her know. She notified his brother and then the message got to me. We found out in late July. He had been staying with this friend, but they had a conflict that put him back on the street. He only lasted a bit over a month before he was dead. I haven't slept at all last night. I am very sad. The year after he died, the family was going to Cracker Barrel for dinner when a homeless man outside the restaurant asked me for change so he could get some food. I welcomed him to our table and fed him whatever he wanted. I wished someone had done that for my son at some point. The workers at Cracker Barrel were concerned and appalled until my friend, who was working there at the time, told them why. Then they were very nice and we received good service. I told the man that the only thing I requested in return was for him to call his mom. I last spoke to my son on April 2nd, 2008. I am glad he called and I know he realized he was going to die. He had told me he would be dead by the time he reached his 30s. He lived to the age of 31. He struggled with mental illness and alcoholism. There is so much more I could say about my son. He was a very loving person. He enjoyed poetry and won a statewide award for poetry reading when he was in high school. He was a good person who treated vulnerable individuals with love and care. He respected women and helped many people. He had a really soft heart, which he worked hard to cover with a tough exterior, but he felt things deeply. He died from bleeding out in his sleep. Some friends of a friend of mine were travelers, and they told me that dying in one's sleep is the best way to go. I was always terrified that someone would light him on fire while he was sleeping. I am grateful he had a peaceful death. The last conversation I had with my son is something I have held close to my heart ever since. If you still have parents living, give them a call. Let them know you are still alive and hopefully doing okay. I realize some people do not get along with their parents, but if there is any chance for finding love and peace, please reach out. My tears are finally flowing now since I wrote this. I have felt so numb. If you have read this and listened to my pain, thank you. User Turbulent Art said, I'm so sorry. I am reading this, fighting tears because I fear this is my future. My son is a fentanyl addict with mental health issues and is only 20. He got into trouble early on with drugs, and by the age of 15, I sent him to his father's, thinking he would straighten him out. That is my worst regret as a parent in my life. His dad let him have free reign almost immediately, and what was supposed to be a few months stay turned into him never coming back. He got into hard drugs, started stealing, and then things got even worse. I can't even repeat all he's done. It absolutely eats my soul alive. I took him to rehab 2 months ago with the agreement that he would complete a 3-month program, get on medication and therapy, then move home and work with his stepdad. He lasted 5 days before he called and told me awful things he's done, saying he just wants to be high. He doesn't care how or where he goes as long as he can get high. The last I heard, he's been kicked out of 3 friends' houses. The cops came looking for him a week ago. He's stolen from all the Walmarts within 50 miles. I was afraid they came to say he's dead. I don't see any other way out for him. I'm so sorry to go on when you are sharing your pain and story. I wouldn't have ever had kids had I known the heartache they can inflict. May the next life have mercy on parents like us. User Fox Ritual said, I'm very sorry to hear that this happened. It's pretty rough out here. I admire your kindness towards people who are on the streets. I am also on the streets and have been for over 5 years. It seems to get worse the longer I'm out here. There is a growing shortage of understanding for the people subjected to this situation. I cannot imagine what you are going through. I wish my mom would be as caring as you are. Instead, she is fine with me being out here on the streets. There should be more people like you with compassionate hearts. It's never easy out here.